A reading from 2 Chronicles chapter 15. The Spirit of God came upon Azariah, son of Oded, and he went to meet King Asa. He called out, "Listen to me, King Asa, and all you people of Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you as long as you are with him. If you look for him, he will let you find him. But if you turn away, he will abandon you." For a long time Israel lived without the true God, without priests to teach them, and without a law. But when trouble came, they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel. They searched for him and found him. In those days, no one could come and go in safety because there was trouble and disorder in every land. One nation oppressed another nation, and one city oppressed another city, because God was bringing trouble and distress on them. But you must be strong and not be discouraged. The work that you do will be rewarded. When Asa heard the prophecy that Azariah, son of Oded, had spoken, he was encouraged. He did away with all the idols in the land of Judah and Benjamin, and all the idols in the cities he had captured in the hill country of Ephraim. He also repaired the altar of the Lord that stood in the temple courtyard. Many people had come over to Asa's side from Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, and were living in his kingdom, because they had seen that the Lord was with him. Asa summoned all of them and the people of Judah and Benjamin. They assembled in Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year that Asa was king. On that day, they offered sacrifices to the Lord from the loot they had brought back, 700 head of cattle and 7,000 sheep. They made a covenant in which they agreed to worship the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and soul. Anyone, young or old, male or female, who did not worship him was to be put to death. In a loud voice they took an oath in the Lord's name that they would keep the covenant, and then they shouted and blew trumpets. All the people of Judah were happy because they had made this covenant with all their heart. They took delight in worshiping the Lord, and he accepted them and gave them peace on every side. King Asa removed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made an obscene idol of the fertility goddess Asherah. Asa cut down the idol, chopped it up, and burned the pieces in Kidron Valley. Even though Asa did not destroy all the pagan places of worship in the land, he remained faithful to the Lord all his life. He placed in the temple all the objects his father Abijah had dedicated to God, as well as the gold and silver objects that he himself dedicated. There was no more war until the 35th year of his reign. The word of the Lord. A reading from 2 Chronicles chapter 16. In the 36th year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, King Baasha of Israel invaded Judah and started to fortify Ramah in order to cut off all traffic in and out of Judah. So Asa took silver and gold from the treasuries of the temple and the palace and sent it to Damascus, to King Ben-Hadad of Syria, with this message: "Let us be allies as our fathers were. This silver and gold is a present for you. Now break your alliance with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will have to pull his troops out of my territory." Ben-Hadad agreed to Asa's proposal and sent his commanding officers and their armies to attack the cities of Israel. They captured Ijon, Dan, Abel Beth Maacah, and all the cities of Naphtali where supplies were stored. When King Baasha heard what was happening, he stopped fortifying Ramah and abandoned the work. Then King Asa gathered men from throughout Judah and had them carry off the stones and timbers that Baasha had been using at Ramah, and they used them to fortify the cities of Geba and Mizpah. At that time, the prophet Hanani went to King Asa and said, "Because you relied on the king of Syria instead of relying on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Israel has escaped from you. Didn't the Ethiopians and the Libyans have large armies with many chariots and cavalry troops? But because you relied on the Lord, he gave you victory over them. The Lord keeps close watch over the whole world to give strength to those whose hearts are loyal to him. You have acted foolishly, and so from now on you will always be at war." This made Asa so angry with the prophet that he had him put in chains. It was at this same time that Asa began treating some of the people cruelly. All the events of Asa's reign from beginning to end are recorded in the history of the kings of Judah and Israel. In the 39th year that Asa was king, he was crippled by a severe foot disease, but even then he did not turn to the Lord for help, but to doctors. 2 years later he died and was buried in the rock tomb which he had carved out for himself in David's city. They used spices and perfumed oils to prepare his body for burial, and they built a huge bonfire to mourn his death. The word of the Lord.